The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
This is Mick Shots.
Streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And here it is. It's Giants Week at the Star in Frisco. Bill Jones along with Mickey Spagnola as Everson Walls is on assignment today.
He's AWOLs.
Yes, he is. He's somewhere. We're not sure where. But anyway, we've got lots to get to. It's Tuesday here at the Star. It's a day off for the players. But you know what, Mickey? It is Friday elsewhere.
Friday?
It's Friday in Kansas City and Detroit.
Oh.
Because the NFL season kicks off Thursday night in Kansas City. And if you do the math on that, it's like a Friday in Kansas City and Detroit. The Lions will be flying to Kansas City tomorrow. We are that close to real games in the National Football League, and I can't wait.
After we got a pretty good college kickoff.
Good weekend.
The weekend.
It was a good weekend.
Watched a lot of football.
Yep.
And now the NFL takes off.
Watched a little Dion on Saturday, did you?
A little Dion or a lot of Dion?
I watched Dion's kid, Shedeur Sanders, pass for a school record 510 yards.
So if you have a quarterback throwing for 510 yards on you, why would you rush him with a three-man front?
Oh, okay.
Just asking. Just asking.
That's where we're starting today. You know what?
I asked my TV that, and I didn't get an answer.
It goes back to when you got the better players on your team, you got a better chance of winning.
It was pretty darn good.
It was fun to watch, and TCU put up a great. TCU's depleted, as obvious from the draft. They had more players drafted this year than in previous years, and so they can still have a great season there. But Sonny Dykes lived by the transfer portal at both SMU and TCU. Well, Dion showed him a thing or two about the transfer portal, didn't he?
Well, yeah.
when you can go to the transfer portal and it's in your own home with the quarterback, it helps there. And then you got a Charles Woodson-like player on your team, and you've got a running back who looked like Tony Dorsett out there.
Yeah, and it was, and they kept saying that it was this team played in the national championship game last year. This school played in it. That is not the same team after you just mentioned how many guys they had drafted into the NFL.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a great way to kick it off. And
it was exciting.
It just keeps getting better and better because now through the Labor Day weekend, I love summer, but I love football more. and here we go. It all gets started with the NFL slate. It's funny. The high school season around here started 2 weeks ago. They're going to have 3 games under their belt before the Cowboys kick it off against the Giants on Sunday night. And the college season will be 2 games deep by the time the Cowboys start. And this past Sunday was the last Sunday without the NFL until after Valentine's Day, basically.
You're absolutely right. And I was thinking, well, the Cowboys are going to play a night game to kick off the season, and it's in New York. Well, if anybody watched the U.S. Open tennis last night, that's no piece of cake. It may be 100 degrees there, but I've never seen 2 tennis players cramping up more than I did last night watching Sinner and how do you say it, Zverev?
I was watching Clemson get beat by Duke. I can't.
But no, it went on till midnight, and they didn't finish till 1:30 in the morning.
Wow. The Cowboys should be well prepared if it's going to be hot and humid in the Meadowlands on Sunday night, because they got that here, and it's going to be all week continuing. Well, summer continues here.
But they're probably only going to practice one more time outdoors, I would imagine. And then Thursday and Friday they're indoor, but they were released outdoors on Monday. There was a practice here, by the way. Everybody's talking about Labor Day and everybody's got a holiday. Well, the Cowboys were practicing on Labor Day.
And that means you were working on Labor Day.
That's right.
Right?
Once again, I didn't have shells on, but they did when they worked out on Monday. And it got a little toasty out there before they finished, so they got a little taste of it.
Bring us up to speed then. While we were laying by the pool on Labor Day, what happened here at the Star?
So the Cowboys had about an hour and a half practice. We got to watch the first 20 minutes, half hour. They seemed to good pace and everything. Now, one of the things that did happen is Tyler Smith kind of walked off with a little bit of a hamstring irritation, tightness, I think they called it. And Jerry Jones said this morning that they were going to get an MRI for precautionary reasons. I see where everybody got headlines that he had going for an MRI. They left out the precautionary part of it, and Jerry also said that they felt better about his tightness after we assessed it after practice. Not as severe enough that should impact him on Sunday. So that's a good thing, because the last thing you want to do is once again have to dig into your not much depth on the offensive line right off the bat.
All right, so we might as well dive into that. If you look at one position group on this team that looks good on paper, that you might have the biggest concerns about holding up for the entire length of a 17-game regular season, and then hopefully the playoffs, the offensive line would be at the top of the list.
Yeah, and when you start assessing the Cowboys roster, I think one of your biggest concerns, but I'm guessing the majority of teams in the NFL have the same thing, depth on the offensive line. You just don't have it. Teams don't have it. It's hard to find offensive linemen these days, and if you got 5 good ones, that's great. You might have a 6th, but getting to 7, 8, and 9 sometimes is very, very difficult at that offensive line position.
And speaking of the offensive line, the other news that has happened here in the last 48 hours, and especially since we last talked to you last week, Terrence Steele has a 5-year contract extension, nearly $87 million, $50 million guaranteed. And what a great story that is for the undrafted right tackle out of Texas Tech, who now is being compensated with the top right tackles in the NFL.
Absolutely. And you know what? He played at that level, I think, the last year for sure until the ACL injuries. And if you think about it, one of the big questions, and this tells you how important Terrence Steele was to this offensive line. The big question was, would he be ready to start the season after suffering that torn ACL the first week in December? And he's absolutely ready to go. And the Cowboys had been wanting to work on that contract. He was a restricted free agent this year. The Cowboys qualified him at $4.3 million. And I always thought that they would like to start an extension this year, or a new contract this year, and they finally got it done. And the key number there, Bill, you just mentioned it. It's the $50 million guaranteed. You can say, well, it's 86 as much as 91, but the guarantee is what is important. So you got basically $10 million a year guaranteed over the 5 years. And that's significant. And what a good story of a guy that was an undrafted rookie free agent in 2020, and he made himself. I think Jerry called it a testament to him developing himself over the years, and not only developing himself, but getting back ready to play come September 10th.
And I mentioned that he's now being compensated like the top right tackles in the league. Lane Johnson's at the top of the list. He averages, I think his contract value is around $20 million a year. But when you look at this past off season and the money that right tackles were getting in free agency, Mike McGlinchey, former first round, number 9 overall pick of San Francisco, 5 years ago, he got virtually the same contract that Terrence Steele got with the Denver Broncos. It was basically a little over $50 million guaranteed. And to put it in that ballpark, okay, McGlinchey comes into the league, he was being paid at the top of what tackles get paid in the league as rookies coming in. Well, Terrence Steele was at the bottom as an undrafted guy. Well, now Terrence Steele has made up ground in a hurry, and especially less than 9 months after his knee surgery.
Right.
And it wasn't just ACL surgery. He had damage to other ligaments in
The whole
that knee.
alphabet.
Yeah. And
ACL, MCL,
and then
PCL.
And I thought, even before this contract was signed, when I look at what happened over the course of training camp in Oxnard and the preseason, perhaps the most significant thing that happened was that Terrence Steele, well, and Tony Pollard, but Terrence Steele was healthy and proved it during all of camp.
I mean, don't you think those were the two big question marks going into training camp, right? Would those guys be ready? And they are. And now the Cowboys' right side of that offensive line, it's a pretty expensive right side if you consider he's lining up next to Zach
got his money
Martin.
Guaranteed a few weeks ago, and now Terrence
and I think
has
his guarantee ended up being 2 years, $36 million total, so $18 million a year. Now maybe they can start working on Biotish, because people forget he went to the Pro Bowl last year. And
his contract is up.
And it is. He's in his last year. Everybody talks about, well, CD is next, and very well could be. But again, everybody goes, well, how does this work out? It's like whoever wants to sign, whoever wants to get it done, they can get it done. They're offering. A matter of you
let's
get
look
what
at
you
this,
want.
Let's just review real quick
Yes.
what they've done as far as contract extensions since the start of training camp. It started with Trayvon Diggs and his 5-year extension. And it continued with Malik Hooker, who got basically the same deal that Donovan Wilson got in the offseason. So they got 2 of their safeties locked up for the next 3 years. And then it continues with Zach Martin after his holdout. And they got him taken care of. And now Terrence Steele.
And I think what you need to consider, it's like, do I have enough money for this, and this? The salary cap's going to go up significantly next year when the new TV contract money kicks in. It may go up as much as $25-30 million. So that you get it done now, and you're able to start spreading it out, looking towards the future. You mentioned, they got to get CeeDee Lamb done at some point. Dak Prescott's not going to count $60 million against the cap next year, 59 point whatever. That'll get done. So, now it's just a matter of, we talked about, well, what happens, like who's your backup offensive guard on this team? And I think that, from what I can tell looking at practice yesterday, one of the guys that was working at backup left guard was Awesome Richards, the 5th-round draft choice. Now, he's been working tackle guard. The other guy that has some experience there is Chuma Edoga. They've got him as a backup tackle after getting him on the 53-man roster. So we'll see where that one goes. As quiet, and maybe we didn't make enough of it, they had been working Josh Ball a lot at guard. And was he great? No. But was he serviceable as a backup? Yes. And then he has a hip injury, and they lose him
for the season.
And that, I think, really hurts. The other guy as a backup, TJ Bass, they like him, but again, he's making a jump. From, was it Oregon?
Yes.
Yes, Oregon, right? to the NFL, and he didn't get drafted. So got to keep an eye on that. And then they picked up a guy on the practice squad, a center guard. The Giants let go, Sean Harlow. And
he started 3 games in Arizona last year.
Right. So I think he started 8 games of the 33 he's played in the league. He was a 4th-round pick of Atlanta at one point, but he's not very big, Bill. 285. That's 1990 size.
I think that might be when he came out of college.
Oh, okay.
I saw another number of 6'4", 303. You got to get him up over 3 bills.
Let's see what we got here. Practice squad. They don't have it on.
But I've seen the 285 and I've seen the 303 on him. But really, when you look at it, if the Cowboys get to that point, and he's a practice squad guy, so he could be eligible to be called up week to week. If they were looking for a more veteran guy early in the season to be that swing inside guy, then he could be the guy that they call up.
And they also work Brock Hoffman, who's kind of the backup center now at guard. And so you got 3 call-ups there, 3 call-ups, and you might just kind of see how that all works out. Because you're going to have to call somebody up to be the backup center, right? So that'll be an interesting one to watch, how many times you can use that call-up, because that's what they're doing with C.J. Goodwin also for special teams, knowing he's got 3 call-ups, and you're thinking maybe week 4, a roster spot
and you
opens.
can do a couple of call-ups a week.
Right.
So you could be looking at, for sure you'll have C.J. Goodwin, one of the call-ups.
And then you'll probably an offensive
maybe
lineman.
Maybe Harlow because of his experience, but he hadn't been here as long.
Right,
so,
right.
All right, so we're just getting started on this edition of Mick Shots. We got so much more to cover when we come back.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back to Mick Shots.
K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing, the official roofer of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, we continue here on Mick Shots on a Tuesday. The team will get back together on Wednesday, and that is when they will officially start Giants Week. But really, Mickey, they've been working on the Giants for a while now.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably somewhat in training camp at some point, and the coaches have been. So, this is nothing new. I don't know that the Giants changed dramatically from last year. Same quarterback, same running back.
They changed dramatically at tight end with Darren Waller.
Yes.
And they've added some others at wide receiver, including a rookie, Jalen Hyatt, and Paris Campbell, a veteran signed in free agency. But we'll get more into the Giants as the week goes on. Anything else that you heard from Jerry on the radio today that was of interest that we should point out?
One of the things, one thing he said about Dak Prescott, because, of course, they wanted to know about his contract and can you handle that much against the salary cap. He said, we expect Dak to be with us a long time. So, once again, we'll reiterate that the Cowboys did not trade for Trey Lance to be a threat to Dak Prescott's going forward with the Cowboys.
You did get a chance to see Trey Lance on the practice field since we last convened last Thursday.
So they are working with him. So I saw it on Monday, and I also saw it on Thursday with his kind of three-step drop, turn, get your arm up, and throw. So working on some mechanics.
Fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing about him, the team was off on Friday, but I saw he was here. So I think he and Scott Tolzien's going to be his next best friend because I think they ever told Scott Tolzien, this is your project right here.
And Tolzien, of course, the quarterback's coach. Doug Nussmeier is with Kellen Moore now with the Chargers.
Right. So, got a chance when the locker room opened on Thursday to just kind of chit-chat with Trey Lance, not like an interview. There was a couple of us there. And I'll tell you what, I'm just kind of impressed with how he handles himself. Boy, he's got a big old bicep, by the way.
Okay.
And if you watch him throw, I mean, he's got an arm. Now it's just a matter of playing football, as we talked about previously. And for him, getting settled in here, it's all of a sudden you get traded and you Zoom here right away. And I mean Zoom on a plane, okay? And but I just kind of liked his nature and, his thoughts about knowing that he needs to play football, that he hasn't played that much. So I'll be interested to see where this goes from here.
It's interesting. We've talked before about Trey Lance and the number of passes he attempted even at North Dakota State, which was in the 300 range. In his 1 year, 16 starts at North Dakota State when they won the national championship. I was looking at Bryce Young. I was watching some of him last night. I had to make my picks on, predictions on who's going to be the offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, defensive player of the year, MVP, all that stuff. So I just watched Bryce Young in some preseason games. And I really like what I see from him as far as his ability to process quickly and so forth, which is a huge factor in making the transition from college to the NFL. But I just looked up his number of games, number of passes he threw in college at the highest level of college football, Alabama. He had 949 pass attempts in 2 years as a starting quarterback at Alabama, 27 games. And so, I mean, that's 3 times as many pass attempts. And there's a whole bunch of other quarterbacks coming into the league who have upwards of 1,200 pass attempts in their college career. In fact, Dak Prescott is probably up near that level in his 3 years as a starter at Mississippi State. You're just behind. And Trey Lance came into the league, as we talked about, he was drafted at age 20. He didn't turn 21 until May of that year. And it's a lot to ask of him to be able, coming out of that college atmosphere, that college offense, to make the transition to the NFL seamlessly.
And I'll say it one more time. He only started 1 year in high school. He redshirted his first year at North Dakota State, started his second year. Third year was COVID, played 1 game.
And turned pro.
And so since high school, now think about this, since high school, he has thrown in competitive games 420 passes. 420. That is not enough. Dak threw 465 his rookie year after starting or playing 3 years at Mississippi State.
At age 23, which is what Trey Lance is now.
Right now. So there's a developmental part that has to take place, and I think the Cowboys understand that, and they're willing to, it's sort of like taking doing a redo on a house, and you're hoping that you can upgrade it and then flip it at the end if that's what it means, or have a quality backup quarterback down the line.
And I have another preseason prediction right now. That's the last time we'll talk about Trey Lance for a long time.
Yeah, right. or that's the way Jerry wants it, right? That's the way he put it out. One other thing from practice on Monday, kind of a injury update. Jourdan Lewis did practice, but again, they were in helmets and shells. And my understanding is, he was going to be limited in practice, and he's probably limited the first week or two. And again, knowing the Cowboys and how they treat guys coming off injuries like that, he needs to be in pads for a couple weeks before I think they put him in a game. Same thing with Donovan Wilson. He's not quite ready yet. And again, he probably needs a ramp up. He hasn't played, any football since that first padded practice in training camp. So we'll keep an eye on that. Sam Williams, a little bit of a foot injury, toe. That was a question mark. They're going to see where that goes. But my understanding is Chuma Edoga, who had missed quite a bit of time with the hyperextended knee causing a bone bruise, should be good to go for at least practice, and then we'll see if he's ready for the season opener. So those are some of the guys that they're keeping an eye on from an injury standpoint.
Would you like to know on my little predictions who I selected as the Defensive Player of the Year in the National Football League this year will be?
Oh, I think this is going to be a shock.
It's the same guy who just tweeted 7 minutes ago, I wish the Scooby-Doo gummy snacks go back to original 2000 version. This new version don't hit the same. And that would be Micah Parsons. Well, he hits the same.
Is he 23 yet?
Actually, we share the same birthday, May 26th.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Year's a little different,
yeah,
right?
it is. I think. Let's see. Micah is 24.
He's 24.
Yeah.
But he just turned 24 in May.
Yeah, May 26th.
Yeah. A newly minted 24-year-old.
So the original 2000 version, that means he was 1 year old when the Scooby-Doo gummy snacks came out, and I guess as a 1-year-old he enjoyed that.
He was probably eating those.
But you like my pick, Micah Parsons?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good going out on.
I think he was my
there.
pick last year too, but I do think that, and we've talked about it a lot since the start of training camp. But you just see where Micah is in his career, what he did in the offseason, the way he was coming off the edge in training camp practices. I think he is poised to have a huge year.
Oh, absolutely. And, we've talked about this, but he ruined many offensive practices during training camp because they just couldn't block him. And you hope that wasn't a reflection on the Cowboys' tackle situation because he was revved up. And one thing that I did kind of find out is that, that was the other position I was worried about depth was linebacker after Overshawn got hurt. They didn't get Jabril Cox back onto the practice squad. What were they going to do there if one of the starters, because they play so much two linebacker and a big safety, with Damone Clark and Leighton Vander Esch, what happens if one of those guys get hurt? Well, Micah Parsons is your next linebacker, and I was told that they may use him a little bit more at linebacker this year than they previously have. Now they're going to pass rush him. They're going to use him all over the place. And
they were thinking that even before the Overshown injury, you would imagine, because you can't anticipate unless there was an injury or whatever. I mean, you were preparing Overshown in case there was an injury, but if everybody stays healthy, Overshown was going to be a special teams guy, and maybe if you figure out
change up defense.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
in some sort of sub package as he learns the defense.
And so the other thing to help the depth at linebacker is the big safeties that they kept, Marquise Bell and Wanye Thomas. Those guys certainly can take some of the pressure off in passing situations, but I'm looking forward to see Micah Parsons all over the defensive formation this year.
Did you get a chance to see Noah Igbenegany out on the practice field?
Yeah, but they didn't. It wasn't a real highly competitive one. Got to listen to him, and he was another guy that talked about came out at an early age and really didn't understand what it meant to be in the NFL. And he feels like he's matured now. So, again, you know, you're going to cut Kelvin Joseph. They were going to cut him. Noah. And I didn't want to trip over it. And so, okay, you give each guy a new chance in a new atmosphere and kind of see how it works out. But they needed another guy with experience on the outside because the only really other corner, until they get Lewis back and he's inside, would be Eric Scott, the rookie 6th-round pick. Nashawn Wright is still banged up, and he ended up on injured reserve, right? Or did he? Yeah, he did. So they needed another guy on the outside.
Okay, wait a second. Noah Igbenegany, you talked about how young he was when he came into the league.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone. Now, Tyron is close, I guess. He was drafted, first-round draft pick in 2020. He turned 20 on November 27th of 2019.
So his rookie year.
He was less than 20 and a half years old. And Tyron, his birthday's in December.
Right.
And he's actually younger than Tyron Smith was when he was drafted.
And we thought he was young.
Right. And so Igbenegany turns 24 in November. He's still very young, and so that's another reason why you go ahead and take a flyer on him, see what you got this year, and then he might be a guy you want to re-sign in the offseason. He becomes a free agent. Yeah,
and they certainly probably wouldn't, unless he becomes a star, pick up his 5th year.
But that's already decision was made.
That was made by they didn't.
Option. That's right.
That's right. So basically, it's almost a free look to see a guy on a minimum salary.
And with Nashawn Wright's injury, they needed a guy, an outside corner type body.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And so so Nashawn Wright's going to miss the first. He has to miss the first 4 games, and then they've used Mukwamu some outside the safety, but I think you wanted more of a true cornerback to be able to play that spot. So it's not all about what they think of a guy as putting together your roster at spots where you need guys to fill in.
And you did see Anthony Brown sign with
the Steelers.
Steelers practice squad, Anthony Brown.
And that gives him an opportunity to go there and see how far he's recovered from the Achilles. The Cowboys were going to keep an eye on him.
And they can still keep an eye on him.
And they still can, right? If you need him.
He's still a free agent. He's on the practice squad, but you don't even with a practice squad guy, you don't even have to go through their team. You can just go straight to the player. So if the Cowboys had an injury at cornerback,
right, they
could go right to Anthony Brown and say, hey, and so it's really a good thing. That's just what I thought of when he signed with Pittsburgh. That's a good thing for the Cowboys to have in their hip pocket that he's working out with a team.
Let somebody else work him out.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And then he's on your short list if you needed somebody.
Because they know all they need to know about him. Right. The other guy that I saw got picked up was the Rams signed Brett Maher.
Yeah.
After he got released by Denver. because Will Lutz was available for Sean Payton.
Well, the good thing for Brett Maher, the way it looks with the Rams team this year, and especially Cooper Kupp has a hamstring issue, I don't think there will be a lot of extra points attempted by the Rams this year. All right.
That's cruel.
We
cold.
continue with more Mick Shots. And that was a Mick shot right there. Maybe Mick's got one.
I should have come up with that.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Back to Mick Shots.
Experience the feeling of game day every day at Miller Lighthouse at the Star. Now open just steps from the Tostita Championship Plaza. Miller Lighthouse features a cooler full of grab-and-go beverages and snacks, tailgate games, a recharging lounge, Dallas Cowboys photo op, and complimentary concierge services. For more info, visit thestarinfrisco.com/Miller Lighthouse.
And this is Mick Shots, brought to you by Miller Lite.
Maybe we should do it at the Miller Lighthouse.
That's an idea.
I don't know. This is pretty nice.
It is. We're inside the brand new SWBC podcast studio. And by the way, there will be regulars now, noon every weekday.
Right. And
the Cowboys podcast text line.
Yeah, there you go.
817-290-3298. We'll get that operational as well. And the phone line. 888-855-2297. You want to start taking phone calls tomorrow?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. We could have taken a phone call from Everson today, but
we might. I might have somebody to help us with the phonage.
What do you mean by that?
Like,
someone to answer the phone calls?
Or the text line, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just stay tuned.
Is there an intern?
Not quite internish.
Okay.
But someone trying to break
Is Rob
in.
Phillips coming back?
Yeah, right? Gosh, God bless Rob.
All right. You got your legal pad full of stuff there. So give me something. Give me a Mick shot. Give me something.
What about this offense?
Yep.
What do you think needs to happen to qualify being as good or better than they were last year? And I think people forget, because of the San Francisco playoff game, how good they were offensively last year.
Well, obviously, aside from the offensive line staying healthy,
right?
Brandon Cooks is a huge addition. And I think there is another thing that is going to factor into because when you look at the San Francisco game last year. Once Pollard went down with the injury, what explosive players did they have to go to in that game? It was CeeDee Lamb, basically.
That was it?
Yeah.
And a guy that came off his couch to help him at wide receiver.
T.Y. Hilton, who hadn't been here very long.
And you can actually add Michael Gallup to that addition because he looks like
now,
it's
over
Michael
what
Gallup.
He was 7 months ago. The other guy I will add to it is Deuce Vaughn. And Kevontae Turpin you can add to it, too. He's going to be used more, I think, on offense. I mean, he barely had any snaps last year on offense. Deuce Vaughn, I think, is going to – I said this in my little prediction show. I have a prediction that the rookie who will have the top merchandise sales in the National Football League this year just might be number 42 for the Dallas Cowboys, Deuce Vaughn.
Well, I think
there's a plan for him.
Yeah, there is. And I think what Bill's suggesting is this offense has speed to burn right now because Cooks can run, CD can run, Pollard can run, Turpin can run, and Deuce Vaughn can run. And I think that sets a combination there. And there was a day in training camp practice where they went 5 wide, and I don't even remember if there was a tight end on the field, but they had the 3 wide receivers. They had Pollard and Deuce on the field at the same time, and I think one of the wide receivers was Turpin. So now, who you doubling? Because Cooks is going to be a nightmare for some of these defenses going forward, and that's a lot of speed that this offense hasn't had in quite some time.
And I like Jay Ferguson and Peyton Endershot as receiving tight ends too.
And Schoonmaker's coming on. And watching college football, I saw this one play that got used over and over again where all the motion goes to the right and they leak out the running back to the left. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like inevitably the linebackers forgot to cover the running back.
Or you get the linebacker isolated on
yes.
the running back, which works really well when your running back is Dylan Edwards, the freshman for Colorado.
You think you might have adjusted to that? Like they read it over and over again, right? And then I saw it in other games where all the motion goes to the right and the running back goes to the left, and they forgot about him.
Well, and you can really feel it in college. But even now with the NFL, there's only a certain amount of time, and due to the collective bargaining agreement, there's only 11 hours of work time during camp, and during the season, you can't cover everything. So you can scheme mismatches.
Right. And think about if that running back going against the grain is Deuce Vaughn and they get him out in the open field, or even Tony Pollard. You know, you might not see Deuce leak out to the left. Now, I think people have more of awareness of Pollard, but not Deuce or Turpin. I just think they've got some guys that can create serious mismatches on offense. And you have to remember, other than the first game of the year and the last game of the year, this team was awfully good with Dak Prescott at quarterback despite the number of interceptions. Those 10 games after he returned, when they averaged 35 points a game, maybe you don't do that, but it's a different type of offense where maybe you consume the ball a little bit more, but you're still scoring points.
Would you like an update from the tennis world?
Yes. Do we have a match already?
Coco
finished?
Gauff?
She wins.
Advances to her first ever U.S. Open semifinals.
She beat...
first American teen to reach the semifinals since Serena in 2001, just 19 years old.
I forgot who she was playing.
And I never knew. So, and as we last couple of minutes here of Mick Shots, you watch any baseball yesterday?
I listened to it. I listened to it. outside, and I wanted to drown myself.
Rangers have waited 7 years to play meaningful games in September, and they've got a very meaningful series going on at the ballpark against the Houston Astros, and they had a 3-0 lead to start that game. Corey Seager hits a homer his first at bat, hit another home run to give him the lead again in the 4th inning in the bullpen.
4-3.
Yeah, 13-6 loss.
So that was another question I had for the TV that I didn't get an answer. Why in the hell did they bring in Spores? Why? He's been awful, and they left him in there till he gave up 6 runs?
They were trying to get by.
Golly.
Here's their problem: is in fact, they acquired Aroldis Chapman, who's 35 years old, and then they had to use him 4 out of 5 days last week. They don't have enough depth in their bullpen. It's like an offensive line that doesn't have enough depth. And there's leakage all over the place. And so 6 runs scored. Then they had to keep Spores in the game because they didn't want to use. Once they fell behind by 3 or 4 runs, they didn't want to use up any more of their bullpen because they got Nathan Eovaldi coming back tonight to pitch. And just like you're trying to ramp up a Jourdan Lewis or someone coming off an injury, Nathan Eovaldi's not going to be able to go more than 3 or 4 innings tonight. They got to use the bullpen again.
If he goes 5, that's great, right? The same thing happened with.
But they're sitting there. They're a game back,
and they're only a game back.
A game back of the Astros and the Mariners, and you got Nathan Eovaldi versus Framber Valdez tonight, and then tomorrow night you got Scherzer versus Verlander.
Is it a night? It is a night game.
Yes.
On Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
and if the Rangers lose these 2,
it's like Scherzer.
They won't be mentioned again on Mick Shots.
The last time he pitched, they gave him 7 innings, right? And that was good, right? Or 6, whatever it was, and then the bullpen blew it.
If the Rangers lose the next 2, there'll be 3 games out, and it'll feel like it's 13 games out.
It's just depressing.
and where they were a month ago. 2 months ago, it looked like they were going to be runaway winners in the West.
It's you got to have a bullpen.
Yep, you got to have guys who can throw. Just like in the NFL, you have to have guys who can throw the football. You got to have guys who can throw a baseball,
and you got to have an offensive line.
All right, so that does it for this edition of Mick Shots. We dive into those New York Giants when the Cowboys get back to work on Wednesday. In the meantime, make it a great Tuesday.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!